Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carly. First of all, I just want to say thank you for everyone who has been patient during my inconsistent upload schedule. I will note that we are in the middle of severe weather season, which is the main reason why once severe weather season has taken a back seat, my schedule will be a lot more consistent. Today we are covering one of the most wicked, erratic, and certainly one of the most infamous events in the weather enterprise in the 21st century, and that is the 2013 Reno Tornado. It's not really enough to just say the Reno Tornado is the widest in recorded history. This tornado was so much more than that. It completely changed the weather community. Not only did it defy what people thought a tornado was capable of with its erratic behavior, it took a huge part of the weather community with it when it left. So today we're going to take a look at this tornado's exceptional life from start to finish, one that left a mark we won't soon forget. Special thank you to Skip Talbot, Heidi and Dave from Weatherbeat, and Mikey Gribble for letting us use their footage today. All of them have exceptional storm chasing experience and incredible videos on major tornadoes. The point of today's video is to highlight and talk about storm chasers, so I encourage you all to go support and give love to their work. With all that being said, let's get right into the video. Today, rather than talking about the history of El Reno or geography, I thought it would be fun to talk about the history of storm chasers. It's hard to say when storm chasing definitively began. Undoubtedly, there's always been that person since the beginning of humanity who's wanted to follow and watch storms. But in recent US history, we can say that one of the first real pioneers of the storm chasing community was David Hodley. David Hodley was a storm chaser in North Dakota in 1956, who also created a magazine called Storm Track, and so was born one of the first real storm chasing communities. In 1972, the University of Oklahoma created the Tornado Intercept Project, and the first generation of storm chasers were born. Scientific understanding of tornadoes significantly progressed in the next 2 decades, and while storm chasing as a hobby wasn't very popular at this point, that was about to change. In 1996, the movie Twister comes out. This promoted a massive peak in storm chasing interest. If you ask any number of storm chasers today, I guarantee you a good portion of them were inspired in part due to the movie Twister. The hobby only continued to grow throughout the 2000s as the Weather Channel began promoting several different series on tornadoes and storm chasing. Now in 2022, storm chasing is both popular and an accessible thing to do. It's an extremely diverse hobby full of amateur weather enthusiasts, photographers and videographers, journalists, meteorologists, scientists. Anyone can enjoy it together. It's incredible. And storm chasers aren't just out there taking pictures and videos driving like maniacs. They are an essential part of the weather enterprise, which is an ecosystem of sorts. While one half of the field is working in preparation for public awareness and media, the other half is out on the field. They are essentially our eyes. Without them, we can't really see what's going on. Chasers work directly with the media, whether on radio or TV. They work with emergency management, and as if all of that isn't enough, there are many storm chasers who are scientists collecting raw data of tornadoes. And without this extreme sampling, we not only don't have that vital information we need, it's hard to progress scientifically when we're not able to collect data samples. Now that we've done a brief overview of storm chasers and their history, let's look at arguably one of the most important events in storm chaser history, El Reno 2013. May 2013 in the Great Plains unleashed some of the most wicked storms in decades. The month of May saw 227 tornadoes alone. States had been hit back-to-back with devastating and gut-wrenching tornadoes, with Oklahoma being in the bullseye seemingly each time. May 19th saw a total of 34 tornadoes, including the Shawnee EF4. The very next day was the fateful and gut-wrenching Moore EF5 tornado, one of the most devastating in modern history and our last EF5. Yet the atmosphere still wasn't done. It's late May. Oklahoma is still reeling from the May 20th Moore EF5. And once again, forecasters are looking at a concerning setup for the Great Plains. On May 24th, a closed low system is projected to move into the Midwest. In addition to that low pressure system, a strong polar jet will be traveling from the Rockies into the southern plains.
The southern periphery of this trough features an intense mid to upper tropospheric jet, which has initiated strong southerly low-level flow. Very rich moisture is moving toward the plains. In the middle troposphere, strong westerly winds are transporting a cool, dry layer of air over the warm, moist layer to the east. The overlap of these two air masses is creating a zone of conditionally unstable air over the southern plains and the upper Midwest.
It's the day of the event, and forecasters and the Storm Prediction Center have issued a moderate risk of severe weather, which included a 15% hatched risk for tornadoes, meaning they are extremely concerned about the possibility or likelihood for tornadoes that are strong to violent range EF3+. Balloon launches are sent out to sample the atmosphere, and the data that comes back only confirms what forecasters have been concerned about. The 18Z sounding shows what's called a loaded gun sounding, with steep mid-level lapse rates and a very deep moist boundary layer. The CAPE values are ranging from 3,500 to 5,000 joules per kilogram. It's very evident that the Storm Prediction Center's concern was warranted. This was an incredibly volatile atmosphere. I know that we all like talking about the meteorology of these events, but one thing I really want to focus on in this video is the human element. Let's take a second to look at the emotional context going into this event. For both chasers and the general public in Oklahoma, they've been through non-stop devastation and horrific scenery and trauma following dozens of tornadoes wreaking havoc in their area. For storm chasers, they've been driving hundreds of miles, oftentimes without sleep, without proper food. They're oftentimes seeing traumatic sights, and they're emotionally and physically exhausted. I asked a few chasers on Twitter if they would care to explain exactly how they felt on this event. The memory is the same for these chasers across the board. Not only was it an ominous day from start to finish, there's this very deep gut feeling that something bad could or would happen. So keep that in mind as we discuss this event. By mid-afternoon hours, storms are beginning to fire off in southwest Oklahoma. Most chasers have set up just west of the Oklahoma City metro, around the El Reno area actually. Given the atmospheric setup and the way storms are firing off, this seems to be the best spot for chasers to wait for the storms to arrive. By 3:30 p.m., a PDS tornado watch is issued. Shortly after that, at 4 p.m., once the storms moved into that more primed atmosphere where the chasers were waiting, they very quickly became tornadic and would rotate. The atmosphere is really ramping up to form a massive tornado. Soon after, at 5:33 p.m., the National Weather Service confirms several severe storms and things are rapidly deteriorating.
It is 5:25, May 31st, just west of El Reno, or on the west side of El Reno. Storm severe warned, just now crossing I-40.
Storm chasers at this point are picking their setup spots. Many of them are already capturing really beautiful clouds and storms as they roll in. Chasers are quickly beginning to note the potential for the southernmost cell in this system. Many storm chasers are now capturing this rapidly rotating wall cloud as it descends closer and closer to the ground.
Big wall cloud just to our west. Wow. Whoa! like fireworks or something. Whoa, I got that one.
Awesome.
As that rotation continues to tighten up, just before 6 p.m., the National Weather Service decides to issue a tornado warning for Canadian County just 8 miles west of El Reno. By 6:03 p.m., that same tornado warned cell has now come down and touched down. The El Reno tornado has officially been born. Chasers are initially positioning themselves to the southeast of the storm, a traditional safe spot to observe and quickly escape if needed. At 6:04 p.m., dozens of chasers are getting the footage of their life of this multiple vortex tornado. It's stunning and gorgeous, and at the time they are actually at a safe distance from the tornado, or so they think.
604.
That's the most crazy multi-vortex action I've ever seen. Just let me know when you want to go. I'm zoomed in as far as I can go right now.
It's every chaser's dream to capture footage like that, and many of them were just absolutely having the time of their life, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to film something this gorgeous. And for a short period of time, that's what it was. A beautiful storm. This was all about to change. There's a moment in the El Reno footage that you can not only see, but almost feel of the turning point in this tornado. The Tempest tour group, who is initially watching these storms come in from a safe distance, along with many other chasers, are finding out that this storm is not only rapidly growing in size, it's now coming straight towards them, now at a more intense forward speed. The leader of the Tempest tour group very quickly realizes they need to get out immediately. The driver starts honking the horn, and people are actually sprinting back to the van. In just a few seconds, we've gone from capturing the footage of a lifetime to now your life is in danger and you have to get out that very second.
But the entire circulation is almost a half mile across. The tourists frantically make their way back to the vehicle as the tornado rapidly closes on their location. The tourists enter their vehicle and are barely able to escape. The widening tornado can be seen from a rear view camera.
This would be the first of many of the very scary and erratic behaviors of this storm that would take every single person by surprise. This is a recurring theme throughout the tornado's life. It's no longer a safe storm to chase. The problem with the El Reno tornado is that it never played by the rules. And while it's not impossible or even extremely uncommon for a tornado to take turns, it was extremely dangerous given the large width of this tornado. And one of the biggest problems with this storm is that the traditional southeast escape route for storm watching was the worst place to be, and this would be one of the main reasons why the storm was so dangerous to chase. By 6:09 p.m., the El Reno tornado takes a turn to the east. It's only continuing to expand in size and intensity.
Here, but again, we're still
Right now! Oh my god, it's there! It's multi-vortex wedge! There's a stop sign up here. Okay. Oh, there it is again! It's like May 10th! Oh, big multi-vortex! Holy crap!
Wow.
The tornado passes just barely to the south of the El Reno airport, sparing it just barely, and the forward speed increases now to 30 to 40 miles per hour.
Seems like it's moving faster than I was expecting. Wow, wow. I know, I got it. Oh my god, it's like huge multi-vortex. Holy crap!
This is base Mars
tornado on the ground.
Reno. We're zoomed all the
Just
way
south
in.
of
You
El
can see
Reno.
it's down at the
Turning,
bottom.
it is just turning around all these
dickhead.
vortices. It's growing in size, and this is very concerning. Folks in the pad, prepare for a violent tornado.
Yes, we can see it on your stream. The rotation is quite large with this, and it's now continuing to get stronger and stronger and larger. Just south of I-40 now, it's exactly 5 miles due west and a half mile south of downtown El Reno.
Another one of the main reasons why this tornado was so unsafe to chase is because of how visually deceiving it was. Even outside of the fact that it was rain wrapped for a majority of its life, there was a huge discrepancy in the visible condensation funnel of the tornado and the actual tornadic wind speeds. With the El Reno tornado, the condensation funnel looks about this size. Chasers think they have their eye on the tornado out in the distance. It looks to be about a mile away. The actual tornadic winds were about this large in diameter, and nobody knew that at the time.
Listen, how about these wires? Are we okay with the wires?
If they come down, they're going to come.
Spring back. There's like a new thing down there.
Oh, the inflow is really strong. Wow, this is crazy inflow.
Yeah.
You taping?
Yeah, it's getting rain wrapped. We're gonna have to move. We gotta be careful of satellites here.
Yeah, I'll see it.
All right, that's Simon Brewer, one of the storm riders, and I think we're trying to get a hold of Mike Bettis. He's out there in the field. I believe this is the Mike shot here.
That's the tornado hunt team.
Hey, Mike, I think he's just now
Well, he's got
plugging
a
in.
tornado behind him.
Yeah, Mike, can you hear us?
Guys, that's it. Right there. There's the tornado. We are just north of Union City, south of El Reno, south of I-40. Cops have blocked off 81 at this point. And now letting
The tornado is deceptively large, has powerful vortices, and is about to become even more violent. The Weather Channel crew has been chasing this storm and recording live coverage as they track the tornado. They can see the condensation funnel of the tornado and its slow forward velocity, and they make a decision to reposition. What they don't realize, however, is that the invisible tornadic wind field was much larger. They decide to move south.
time to waste. This thing is moving relatively slowly, and it is moving off to the south right now. What we may end up doing, guys, because we could be putting ourselves in a dangerous position here, we may actually quickly try to get in our cars and get south of this. That'd be the safest place to do that. I think we have to go now in order to stay ahead of this and not get run over by it. So, guys, I think we're going to get back in our cars. We're going to try to keep our cameras on top of this, and we're going to roll just to stay safe, okay?
They quickly get into their car and speed south, but they are too late. The tornado is bearing down.
There was a moment where once it got to kind of the left side of our vehicle, then I realized we were going to be hit. And then you just feel this really sudden, violent wind hit you.
At 6:20 p.m., Mike Bettis and the Weather Channel are hit as they are attempting to cut across the tornado moving south, unaware of just how large the circulation is. There were so many instances, several that we're not even able to get to today, of chasers who were attempting to escape the tornado who barely made it out.
Please do not ride this out in any interior closet or bathroom. Don't, because it's violent. It is a violent multi-vortex large tornado. Emily Sutton is in the tornado, and the center, and her, as you might imagine, her phone is breaking up. This tornado is now located on Reno Avenue, Reno and 10th Street North at Manning, just west of Banner Road.
At this point, the tornado is now massive. It's rain-wrapped, very difficult to see, and at this point, the storm chasers aren't even trying to see the tornado anymore. It's impossible. They're just trying to get out.
It's really wedging out. Holy crap, Dave. I think we need to move.
Where?
East. Go east.
But if it's going to move a little bit more, you know.
But it's coming back this way.
I think I'd rather go backwards, actually.
Okay. Well, can you see okay? There's a car coming behind.
No, it's not the truck.
It's wedging out this way.
Yeah.
At 6:19 p.m., the tornado is over a mile wide, deceivingly so, and has just crossed U.S. Highway 81 near Reno Road. None of the chasers are aware of how large the circulation actually is. One really tragic example of this is Richard Henderson, who was a truck driver and amateur storm chaser, who was attempting to get some pictures or footage of this tornado.
Richard Henderson is trying to beat the tornado to the east, his progress delayed by a chaser traffic jam. Hindered by the blinding rain and powerful winds, Henderson stops. With brutal force, the tornado overtakes him.
He sends a picture of the tornado to his friend, and just a few minutes later he would end up being overtaken by the tornado and he would not survive. Just after crossing over Highway 81, the El Reno tornado reaches its peak. It's 2.6 miles wide and a monster.
I know.
Dan Robinson is traveling east on Reuter Road. At this point, he is to the north of the storm and trying to figure out a way to escape the rapidly intensifying, rain-wrapped tornado.
Dan Robinson chased the tornado from its northwest initially, inside the inflow notch, in a maneuver sometimes called a hook slice. Turning east on Reuter Road, Dan realized the tornado had made a significant left turn and was moving closer to his position.
In his dash cam, we can see his decision to move east on Reuter Road, attempting to outrun the tornado that he thinks is smaller than it actually is.
Dan Robinson is heading east on Reuter Road, just west of Highway 81. Robinson decides to continue heading east on Reuter.
As Dan is traveling east on Reuter Road attempting to escape the El Reno tornado, he realizes that he's experiencing tornadic level winds. That wasn't right. He was supposed to be in front of the storm. Dan quickly starts to speed up, trying to go faster and escape, but his traction control is making him lose power and he's not able to go fast enough.
Though the main condensation funnel is still a mile away, Robinson is overtaken by the invisible edge of the tornado. Robinson's four-cylinder vehicle struggles to go eastward against strong east and northeasterly winds. The tornado is just to Robinson's south. To make matters worse, the traction control on his Toyota Yaris engages, reducing power to his wheels. Robinson struggles to stay on the road. Not long after passing radio, Robinson clears the future path of the core flow, with winds now approaching 300 miles per hour.
I can only imagine how intense those few moments were for Dan as he's realizing he's actually in the tornado and in grave danger, knowing that you only have this 1 minute to literally either outrun the storm or potentially get killed. I'd imagine that was the longest minute of his life.
Unknown to Robinson at the time, a white Chevy Cobalt is following him. In it are Tim Samaras, Paul Samaras, and Carl Young.
Easily one of the eeriest parts of this tornado. We see in Dan's dash cam footage the TwistX team in their Chevy Cobalt in their final moments.
Our knowledge of where Tim and Paul Samaras and Carl Young were positioned comes from observations from Dan Robinson, who had a visual on them during his chase. We know they were traveling eastbound on Reuter Road as the tornado was making its left turn.
Less than a half mile behind Robinson, a powerful subvortex is swinging northwest toward Reuter. In the direct path, the TwistX crew is riding out the storm alongside the road near a creek. The vortex briefly stalls over their Chevy Cobalt. It tumbles over 5 times.
At 6:23 p.m., just as Dan Robinson has barely escaped east on Reuter Road of the massive circulation, the TwistX team, almost right behind Dan Robinson, is caught up in a powerful sub-vortices. They wouldn't make it. One of the most frustrating and sad parts of this is that the TwistX team was just right behind Dan Robinson. They weren't that far away. He had just seen them a minute prior to the TwistX team being hit. It's an unfortunate demonstration of how quick and intense these subvortices are. In even just a very short area, the tornado can be completely different. At 6:25 p.m., a tornado emergency is issued for El Reno. At this point, the Tempest Tour group has been hit. Mike Bettis and the Weather Channel have been hit. Richard Henderson has lost his life. The TwistX team has unfortunately lost their lives. And Dan Robinson has just barely made it out of the tornado. It's bad. It's really bad.
With several large subvortices orbiting around the outer edge like a carousel before the entire tornado cyclone appeared to condense down to the ground. Even at a distance of several miles, the audible roar of the tornado was still quite prominent.
From 6:27 to 6:30 p.m., the tornado's forward velocity slows down, and it actually does a loop just north of the interstate while decelerating. At 6:42 p.m., after 40 long minutes, the monster El Reno tornado finally dissipates at I-40 and Banner Road. It's finally over. Just after the tornado, chasers are meeting up. They're talking about their near-death experiences. They're discussing the massive tornado they just witnessed. It's a lot of adrenaline and shock and disbelief. To me, one of the more devastating things to watch in the footage is that nobody yet knows that multiple people have been killed in this tornado. Multiple chasers have been killed in this tornado. Mike Bettis and his crew have just made it out of their truck, which is completely smashed and has been rolled multiple times. They're all alive, miraculously, outside of a few minor injuries.
One of the first to find us, fellow storm chaser Reed Timmer.
When you first see it, you're like, there's no way someone could survive this. You were as calm as ever, just like you are now, and had a cut right here. And I was just happy to see you. It looked like you guys were fine.
It was nice to see a friendly face after having gone through that, that's for sure.
Another crew that we didn't even get to discuss earlier that had been dragged into the tornado was meteorologist Emily Sutton and storm chaser Kevin Josephy. They weren't injured, but their vehicle was damaged, and so this is a recurring theme we're seeing, that professionals who have been chasing for years, meteorologists, professional storm chasers, and people who are traditionally extremely safe, all of these people alike have been drug into or deceived by the tornado in some way. It just goes to show how intense this tornado was, even for professionals who have been doing this for decades. After non-stop tornadoes and outbreaks seemingly inundating the latter half of May, the El Reno tornado was a really dark and twisted way to finish it off. After the El Reno tornado, there was a period of quiet. This was kind of the last event, the final and extremely devastating tornado to a non-stop, back-to-back chase, essentially. The next day, June 1st, 2013, everyone is just exhausted, especially the chasers, meteorologists. People in Oklahoma in general are just exhausted. Reports of chaser deaths are coming in fact, a total of 8 people would be killed in association with the El Reno tornado. To many people's shock and horror, the TwistX team was the fatalities that they were hearing about. Tim Samaras, his son Paul Samaras, and Carl Young all lost their lives in this really tragic way. I will show a photo of the TwistX team's car. However, I'm not going to talk about any of the other details surrounding their horrific passing. In addition to that, Richard Henderson, who we talked about earlier, who was a beloved father and husband, also lost his life. The other deaths in association with the El Reno tornado, I was not able to find. From what I understand after doing some reading and research, some of those names were not released. I'm not going to push on that because it's likely a case of people not wanting that information out there. On June 2nd, a few days after the event, many of the storm chasers who were still in the area decided to get together and pay a sort of tribute to the TwistX team, and they went out and wrote their initials in 3 different states using the GPS tracker. It was really sweet. This was a horrific loss. It was not only the loss of a friend, of course, but a major part of the community, a scientific part of the community, and those are more rare to come by. There is a memorial to them now. It's almost like a rite of passage as a storm chaser that you go to the TwistX team memorial and visit it. People leave stuff there all the time. Kind of an integral part of the experience if you are in the chaser community. Later that year in November, National Geographic actually featured Tim Samaras and his work as their cover story, and they talk about his scientific contributions, a lot of his work, so I thought it was a really neat cover that they did. In total, the El Reno tornado would track a 16-mile path, and notably it did dissipate just before entering more populous areas of the Oklahoma City metro. The fact that the El Reno tornado took so many turns and took that initial southern and more easterly direction actually spared the airport in El Reno. There were numerous homes that were damaged, some businesses as well, but had it moved over a more populated region in the OKC metro area, it would have been horrific. There were 36 confirmed tornadoes from this entire outbreak. One thing to note after the El Reno tornado event is that the flash flooding event was actually much more deadly. 13 people lost their lives in Oklahoma, including multiple children, from flash flooding in several different counties, both on May 31st and June 1st. This was actually one of the most devastating flash flooding events in the state's history and the highest fatality from flooding since 1984. Between May 19th, 20th, and the 31st, there was a total of 47 fatalities between tornadoes and massive flash flooding events, billions of dollars of damage, and hundreds of injuries, all in the one state of Oklahoma. So the ratings. This one's a doozy. The storm would be sampled by the University of Oklahoma and the Center for Severe Weather Research. Several radars near the El Reno tornado that were set up, the Doppler on wheels, captured wind speeds in excess of 295 miles per hour. Immediately after the tornado, the National Weather Service comes in and says this was an EF5 tornado. Not only because of its massive width, it's the largest tornado in recorded history, it had extreme winds in excess of 200 miles per hour. But of course there is the preliminary rating and there is the final rating. So although the preliminary rating was an EF5, in September of 2013 the final surveys would be finished, and the NOAA comes out and says that the new rating for the El Reno tornado is an EF3. So it's downgraded from an EF5 to an EF3, and I'm sure that there were people who were either disappointed or upset that there was a downgrade in the rating, but the EF scale isn't based on fatalities or wind speed or the width of a tornado. It's based on the damage. So the damage that ended up occurring from the El Reno tornado itself actually really only occurred to fields and a few buildings. And when you look at the greater context of this event, the El Reno tornado happened just after the Moore EF5 tornado, where many homes and structures were flattened. So when we're talking about a rating in terms of damage, the damage that the El Reno tornado produced and the damage that the Moore tornado produced shouldn't be the same rating, because they didn't produce the same kind of damage. I'll be totally honest with you guys, there are many times, today included, where I almost feel guilty for talking about an event that I wasn't a part of. Of course I can read studies and I can ask questions and watch videos, but there's no way I'm ever going to be able to fully encapsulate or convey the kind of feeling of that entire event and its after effects. I wasn't there, I didn't see damage, I didn't know those chasers personally, so I try to add as much human element as I can, because frankly I feel guilty for talking about something that I don't know anything about in real life. Now, normally I like to always have some kind of takeaway when we talk about these events. Honestly, for the El Reno one, it's difficult. The El Reno tornado was so erratic. I don't know that there is a way anyone could have safely chased that tornado. The El Reno tornado wasn't a testament to storm chasing being dangerous, but rather a testament to the fact that this tornado was so dangerous and anomalous that even the best of the best professionals couldn't chase it safely. I guess the takeaway is that at the end of the day, no matter how experienced any of us are, tornadoes are a force of nature greater than any of us could ever think to conquer. That's it for today's video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye! Timothy Samaras was born on November 12, 1957. Tim became hooked on tornadoes from an early age as a kid when his mother introduced him to the Wizard of Oz movie and he saw the tornado. He claims that he was immediately hooked. Tim took to amateur radio by 12 years old, and by 16 years old, Tim is not only already chasing storms as soon as he's able to drive, he was working as a radio technician. Immediately out of high school, Tim is already working for the University of Denver because of his incredible knowledge and ability. At just 20 years old, Tim Samaras had Pentagon security clearance for testing and helping building weapons security systems. Even more impressive is that all of these things were self-taught. Tim would go on to become a prominent engineer working on blast testing and airline crash investigations. He worked a lot in ballistics. Already you can see how these things are tying into being the perfect scientist for tornado research. Then in the weather community, of course, Tim Samaras is very well known for research with his TwistX team, which was created to research tornadoes through data sampling. With his experience in ballistics and high-speed photography, Tim was the perfect person for this. He was able to design and then engineer his own probes that would be placed in front of the tornadoes to collect various samples. The TwistX team actually captured the largest drop in atmospheric pressure in less than a minute. This was recorded in an F4 tornado in Manchester. This is, according to Tim, one of the highlights of his career. In total, Tim tracked over 125 tornadoes in his career. Tim Samaras was truly a man with hunger for knowledge, and nothing ever stopped him from exploring that to his very fullest. You can see his lasting impact on the community, how much he inspired and influenced chasers, and none of that is going to be soon forgotten. Paul Samaras, Tim Samaras' son, was born on November 12, 1988. Paul Samaras was an incredible photographer and videographer, and Paul was only 24 at the time of his passing, way too early and particularly tragic. Carl Jung was born in 1968, a native Californian. Carl was an incredible meteorologist and atmospheric scientist. He worked with Tim Samaras and Paul on the TwistX team for over 11 years as a meteorologist, and just an incredible team.